Hello everyone and welcome back to the week 10 of my Letterboxd diary. This week we don't really need an introduction on what will we be doing, because as you might know, this is a continuation from the last week's episode and the second part of our Eras tour. We are going to talk about 90s movies this week, and without further ado, let's start with our first movie. Dude, what the hell? If you made me guess what happens at the end of this movie from the first 30 minutes, I assure you I wouldn't guess this outcome. I was indeed flabbergasted. I haven't seen a twist come out of left field like this one since Oldboy, and even though how ridiculous it was, still it didn't bother me like at all. There's a fine line in ridiculousness. If you pass it and become way too ridiculous, the concept you're trying to show looks incredibly stupid. But if you play your cards right, like From Dusk Till Dawn, your ridiculousness can be interesting. The dialogue and line delivery was so much fun in this movie. I mean, when you consider this was written by Tarantino himself, this doesn't surprise me much. But having talented actors like George Clooney and Harvey Keitel certainly helps too. And for one last note on the acting side, Quentin Tarantino actually surprised me with his acting. I wasn't expecting much from him, and he indeed surpassed those expectations. I really don't want to talk much about this film because most of the stuff worth talking about revolves around the plot twist. The movie until that point is generic crime thriller, and I'm not saying that to degrade the movie. It was doing a good job with that concept too. Right now, as I'm writing this, I have no idea if the trailer gives away the twist. If so, I'm definitely cutting those parts off. I highly recommend From Dusk Till Dawn, and if you're going to watch it after this, I need to make sure you go into it blind like I did. I mean, I guess now you know there's a twist in the movie, unlike I did, but I guarantee you can't guess what that twist is. To be honest, I wasn't expecting Eyes Wide Shut to focus so much on a relationship. I don't know if I'm alone on this boat, but I only knew about this film as the cult movie of Stanley Kubrick. And I know it's also his last movie too, put down your pitchforks. But the way this film explores the concept of infidelity really stuck with me. To me, the consequences of cheating is pretty black and white. But here, how that infidelity is portrayed truly creates a gray area. On one side, there is an impulsive, emotional, and intangible cheating that technically does not happen. On the other side, there is a revengeful, intentional one that comes from a place of pain that in one way or another couldn't be executed for many different reasons. Still, both halves contains infidelity in different tones. It is a very interesting approach to, unfortunately, a common concept like this. The cultist part of the film was way smaller than I expected though. I definitely went into this movie with wrong expectations. The writing, the cinematography, and the acting are unsurprisingly on point. You all know what people like Stanley Kubrick, Tom Cruise, and Nicole Kidman can bring to the table. It was definitely an amazing experience throughout. Especially Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise, as two of the biggest actors of the 90s, really helped me get into this 90s theme episode. This is indeed one of those movies that made me think, why didn't I watch this before? Okay, so a quick note. I'm not going to talk about this film. The reason that I'm not doing an initial take on Misery is I just finished the book and immediately watched the film after that. And as an opportunist, I'm an opportunist! And a sucker for new content ideas, my brilliant mind thought of the idea of a comparison video between Misery the book and Misery the movie. So with that, I'm going to talk about my initial thoughts about both of them. I know this sort of feels like cheating, adding a movie here and not talking about it, but this is my channel. I'm free to do whatever the hell I want, and you can't stop this. Fight me if you have a problem about it. At first I was planning to work on that video this week, but Daredevil Born Again came out and the rest is history. Okay, let's move on to the next movie. The film that turned an entire generation of children dinosaur addicts. Jurassic Park was truly amazing. A revolutionary filmmaking by Steven Spielberg that aged beautifully. Animatronics looks top-notch and don't feel fake at all. And while watching the film, that really had me thinking, why don't we just rely on animatronics more? Why is everything has to be VFX loaded? There are usage of CGI here as well, but it is very limited. And I will say they make themselves a bit visible. But if I had watched this film back in the day when it first released, my jaw would literally drop. The world building is phenomenal, the film really makes you feel like you are in a tour in a theme park. And the other thing that really impressed me is they don't really try to show the dinosaurs fully every time. Sometimes it's just a noise or a part of their body. We see them entirely time to time, sure, but that element of mystery was really nerving to watch and allowed the atmosphere to get denser. Acting was cool too. Sam Neill, Laura Dern and Jeff Goldblum do their jobs as expected. But I believe we need to give a big shout out to the two child actors, Joseph Mazzalo and Ariana Richards. They absolutely nailed their performances, making their fear and excitement feel incredibly real. There were also a couple of foreshadowing moments here and there that I found cute, but for some it could be a little force-fed. Unfortunately, the general grading for the sequels doesn't look that promising, but in order to celebrate the upcoming movie Jurassic World Rebirth, maybe we can make a Jurassic-themed episode. Unfortunately, Ring or Ringo was extremely boring for my taste. I understand its significance in Asian horror cinema and its impact worldwide, but aside from a few scenes, I found it rather mundane. I also find the American version boring too, so I don't know if my opinion is really valid here. But I will say this version is slightly better. At start though, I felt some sort of an intensity from the film. I don't know if this is because of its reputation or I was just in the mood for it. But quickly that intensity faded away and I had to pause the film and do other things just to keep myself from dozing off. I think what killed this film in my head was the amount of supernatural elements that was present beyond the cursed videotape that killing people. The inclusion of psychic powers and other abilities felt out of place, especially when the characters around them barely reacted with the level of shock you will expect. This can also be a criticism on the acting in the film, which was all over the place. Hiroyuki Sanada did his best, but other than him, I didn't find anyone impressive. To be honest, I don't have much to say about this one. For me, it was a movie that had me waste my 90 minutes of time. And unfortunately, it wasn't really bad either. Because when a film is that bad, at least I get more focused on how much it can get worse. But this was just a dull horror movie. As I was scrolling through reviews on Letterboxd, I felt a bit out of place. Because everyone seems to enjoy this film a lot. Hey, everyone has their own taste, I guess. And that's about it. We are done with another week and with another decade for our era store. Next week we are continuing with 2000s and hopefully we will be done with the 50% of our 100 movies challenge. And as for our other challenge, the 52 videos in this year one, I believe we will be done with its first quarter with our very next video. We are like 3 weeks ahead on that department, so I can say that we are on a good pace. With our occasional additional videos, maybe we can finish that around November or maybe even October. But it's too early to think about stuff like that. Thank you everyone for sticking until the end. Liking and subscribing to the channel is always much appreciated. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.